All right, let's dive into something that's really the heart and soul of internal auditing. Its ethical backbone. What are the absolute core principles that every single auditor has to live and breathe? We're going to break it all down.
So, to get us started, I want to pose a question, and it's a big one. What do you think is an internal auditor's most valuable asset?
It's not about the fancy software or even a specific technical skill. The number one asset, hands down, is trust. It's that rock-solid confidence that the organization, its leaders, and even the public have in an auditor's work and their word.
Okay, so how do you earn that trust? And maybe more importantly, how do you keep it? Well, it's all built on a super strong foundation of ethics, and we can actually break that foundation down into 5 core principles. Think of them like the pillars holding up a massive, important building.
So here's our game plan. We're going to walk through each of these 5 pillars: integrity, objectivity, competency, due care, and of course, confidentiality. So let's get right to it and start with the foundation. First up, we have integrity. And honestly, this is the bedrock. It's the fundamental piece that makes everything else we're going to talk about even possible. In plain English, what does integrity really mean? It just means telling the truth and doing the right thing every single time. It's having that professional courage to let the facts speak for themselves no matter how tough the situation gets. And this is exactly why we're starting here. Without integrity, trust just can't exist. And those other pillars we mentioned, well, they just crumble. It is the absolute core of an auditor's credibility. So what does this look like when things get real? In a high-pressure moment. Just picture this for a second. You've finished an audit, your findings are 100% solid, but the senior leaders are really not going to be happy with what you found. This is where your integrity is truly tested. The pressure might be on, maybe even silently, to kind of soften the message or maybe leave out a few details. But your professional duty, it demands something very different. Acting with integrity here means, first, you have to be truthful. You communicate what you found clearly, accurately. Next, you disclose all the key facts. You never, ever omit information that could sway a decision. And finally, you present your evidence-based results, even when it's the hardest conversation you'll have all week. Okay, let's move on to our second pillar, objectivity. If integrity is about telling the truth, objectivity is all about making sure that truth isn't being twisted or colored by your own biases or relationships. This basically means you have to approach your work with a completely impartial mindset. Your conclusions have to be based purely on the evidence you find, totally free from any personal feelings or outside pressures. Now, here's a classic scenario where objectivity can get a little tricky. Imagine you were on the team that helped create a brand new system. And now, just a few months later, you're being asked to audit that exact same system. The answer is almost for sure yes, even if you don't realize it. This is what we call an impairment to objectivity. You might subconsciously want to defend the work you did, or maybe you'd overlook certain flaws. It's a natural human bias, and it's something that has to be carefully managed. And knowing where that line is, it's just critical. So, for example, auditing work you recently did, or auditing a department run by a close relative, yeah, that's a clear impairment. But look at the difference here. Giving advice on controls for new system, or reviewing procedures before they're final, that's usually okay, because you're not auditing a finished product you're responsible for. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation where your objectivity might be impaired, the playbook is really simple and direct. Step 1, you recognize it. Step 2, you disclose it to your boss right away. From there, they'll figure out the best way to handle it, which often just means having someone else take on that specific task. That brings us to our third pillar, competency. Because let's face it, having integrity and objectivity is great, but it doesn't mean much if you don't have the actual skills to do the job right. This one's pretty straightforward. It means you only take on work that you're actually qualified to do. But here's the key. It's not a one-and-done kind of thing. Competency requires a real commitment to always be learning, to keep your skills sharp and totally up to date. And the profession takes this lifelong learning thing very, very seriously. For instance, a practicing certified internal auditor has to complete 40 hours of continuing professional education every single year. That's not just a friendly suggestion, it's a requirement to stay on top of your game. Moving right along to our fourth pillar, which is all about the quality and the thought you put into the work itself. We're talking about exercising due professional care.
Think of it this way. It means acting like the careful and competent pro that you are. You're thinking about how complex the job is, how big the risks are, and you're weighing the costs and benefits of the audit work you're planning to do. Now, a huge part of due care is this idea of professional skepticism. This just means that you always have a questioning mind. You don't just take information at face value, you're always critically assessing the evidence. And this distinction is so important. Skepticism isn't about being cynical or negative. It's about being curious. It's that professional drive to say, okay, that's interesting, now show me the evidence. It's about always being willing to dig one level deeper.
And finally, we've arrived at our fifth pillar. This one governs how auditors handle all the sensitive information they get their hands on: confidentiality. You know, internal auditors have this incredible access to an organization's most sensitive stuff. We're talking everything from financial records to secret strategic plans. And with that kind of access comes a massive responsibility to protect that info and only use it for legitimate audit work. And protecting this information isn't passive, it's a very active job. It means you're being deliberate about security. You're using encryption, you're securing your work papers, and you're just being mindful of what you talk about and who you're talking to. So as we wrap this up, it's so important to see how these 5 pillars, integrity, objectivity, competency, due care, and confidentiality, they don't just stand on their own. They all support each other, and together, they form that unshakable foundation of trust that the entire internal audit profession is built on. So, we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. The next time you're facing a really tough call at work, a real ethical dilemma, which one of these 5 principles is going to be your North Star? Thanks for watching.